Stats. Welcome to the podcast you've been waiting for. Great perspective and exclusive interviews.
It's a hard job for those guys because it's happening fast.
The kind of Saints insight and fun commentary you won't get anywhere else.
We've got plenty of technology to speed things up.
It's time to kick off your Been There, Done That Saints podcast, where we hand it off to our host, Mike Nabors, and Super Bowl winning linebacker, Scott Shanle.
Proud of these guys.
All right, Saints fans, it's Thanksgiving week, but we're going to count the ways you still could be thankful despite the worst losing streak since the 2016 season. How about that? Welcome to another Been There, Done That podcast. I'm Mike Nabors. I'll bring in my co-host, of course, producer Justin Thomas, Scott Shanle. Shanle, you a turkey guy or a ham guy?
Oh, this is easy. I'm definitely a turkey guy.
Oh, wow.
Turkey
really?
all the way. I have to have turkey. In fact, my favorite turkey, if anybody's ever had a Popeyes turkey, they're awesome.
Really?
I've
all
never
the way
had
throughout. Yeah, they're I highly recommend.
Well, we don't have Popeyes as a sponsor, Shanle, but we do appreciate our friends at DraftKings for being our sponsor. You know, DraftKings Sportsbook is coming soon to Louisiana, folks. It won't be long until you can bet on all your favorite sports teams from the comfort of your own home. To celebrate, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving customers $100 in free bets when you sign up before they go live. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use our code DONEDAT Podcast, DONEDAT Podcast, when you sign up. Those who sign up right now will get $100 in free bets to use once mobile sports betting hits Louisiana. That code is DONEDAT Podcast. You get $100 in free bets. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You have a gambling problem? Call 1-877-770-STOP. That's 7867. 21 and over, Louisiana only. Availability varies by parish. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full terms and conditions. So we love DraftKings. We appreciate them. We're excited to see them coming to Louisiana soon. And you can take advantage, obviously, as you heard by listening to this podcast. Justin, as we separate things, turkey or ham guy?
This is tough. It's not quite as easy for me as it was for Scott. I think turkey has the edge, but I love a good spiral ham.
Nice. I'm not a turkey guy at all, man. I may be a turkey, but I don't like turkey. I love ham, man, easily. That's an easy decision for me. So Shanle and I are eating together. We got to get a big table because we both would be on the table for sure. All right, Shanle, you know what? That Eagles game was a mess. I thought the score was deceptive. I just, this is not a good Eagles team. It's not a good team. What was your take, from that game? Because obviously looking back, we all thought they'd play better than that.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I was disappointed for the fact that you played this team last year and Hurts and Miles Sanders broke the 100-yard rush record apiece on you after you had a streak of, I believe, 55 or 56 games. And I thought that would be enough to get you ready, motivated to slow down the run, to control those guys. And they both went off again. I mean, Miles Sanders was on IR, showed up and almost had 100 yards. So I think it's some of the scheme that Philadelphia runs, that college-type RPO running game, gives this defense troubles. A mobile quarterback obviously gives the Saints defense troubles. But, despite all that, tons of injuries. My expectations for the offense weren't very high. I thought they would score 14 to 20 points, somewhere in there. But I'm just really frustrated with the defense. I don't know. Defensively, you can't play the way you do against Tampa Bay and Green Bay and then show up the way you have against the bad teams. It's just it smells of a little bit of front runnerism, I guess, when things are good, when people are telling you have to play well against elite quarterbacks, you show up. But they need you in games like this. The offense is not good. The offense has tons of injuries. They need you more so in games like this, and they need you to play the way you do against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady.
It's funny you say that because breaking down the schedule so far, they're 5-5, the New Orleans Saints, but the 5 wins are against teams with a combined 29-23 record, right? The 5 losses are against teams with a combined 25-28 record, and that would be even worse if you took the Titans off there. That would amplify that statistic. So, but that to me is the NFL this year, Shanle. I mean, I know every team is different. Every team has injuries. I think the Saints have a little more. But yeah, it's just so weird, this football team. And we can break them apart with all the injuries. Kamara, that's just tough. You lose Armstead and Ramczyk, it's tough. But I think, if they can get some of these guys back, can they make a run? Are they good enough to make a run? down the stretch here?
Well, I think when they're healthy, certainly they're good enough. I told this to Zach Strief, who's now an assistant coach for the Saints offensive line. There isn't a team when healthy, like if this Saints team is healthy and they're going to play this team or that team, name the team, there's not a team that I say there's no way the Saints can beat them. When the Saints team is healthy, I believe in Sean Payton calling plays. I believe in the defense when they play the way they can play, that they can beat anybody. They've shown that. But as far as doing it consistently, we have not seen that. And if you're going to get to the playoffs, you can't pick and choose when you're going to play well. You have to play consistently week after week. And we haven't seen this team put together 2, 3, 4 games in a row where they're just dominant performances. So for that reason, I say no. I say if they make the playoffs, I don't know how far they can go until they get consistent play out of the quarterback position, the wide receiver position, and the defense plays elite every single week.
Is it crazy, though? I know they have an extra playoff team, but if the playoffs started today, Shanle, your New Orleans Saints would be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you jump out to a 5-2. Doesn't 5-2 feel like forever ago?
Oh, good Lord!
The fact that we're sitting here at 5-5, that happened quick. I mean, in the blink of an eye, that happened real quick, and it's unfortunate because you were hanging right in there in the NFC South. Tampa Bay and Carolina, they were losing when you needed them to lose. Unfortunately, you dropped some games. Eagles, the Falcons game was just awful. You dropped games that you shouldn't have dropped, and that's why you're in this position.
All right, let's talk about the quarterback position. Trevor Siemian, we know what he is at this point. All right, I know he has had injuries and he's had drops, but he threw his first couple picks against the Philadelphia Eagles, and I thought he was forcing the ball a little bit. If Taysom Hill can play and beat Taysom Hill, is it time to give the keys to Taysom Hill? Is it Taysom time?
Oh, you love this, Mike.
I do love it.
Just tell me you love it.
I do love it.
The perfect scenario came about in the past year. Jameis got hurt. Nobody wants to see anybody get hurt. But then you have Trevor Siemian, who hasn't started in 3 years, and you're sitting there looking at me like, "What about now, Shanle?" You're like tapping your fingers together, just with a grin, like the Grinch.
I'm looking at my Taysom posters in my office here. Yes, absolutely.
Hey, the perfect storm happened, Mike. It's time. Taysom Hill needs to be the starting quarterback for this team. Do I believe that Taysom Hill is an NFL quarterback who can play 17 games and win a Super Bowl? I don't. But I think he's a great football player. And I think the spark, the energy he brings to a field is more than Trevor Siemian brings to a field. I think Taysom can make all the throws, if not more than what Trevor's making. And I think Taysom can run the ball, pull the ball down when teams play man. I just think he's a better quarterback, and he is the option to go with right now.
Which leads us to Taysom, more Taysom this week. He gets the contract extension, Scott Shanle, worth anywhere between $40 million and $95 million, with $22.5 million guaranteed, according to the insider Adam Schefter himself. What the heck's going on with that?
It's the ultimate insurance policy is what it is. What that contract tells you and tells Saints fans, because I know this is polarizing subject. Saints fans are like, what are we doing? And I'm kind of in that camp because it's a pretty good portion of your salary cap you've designated to this one guy. Now, what it says is if we find a quarterback who's better than you, Taysom, you're going to continue to be the slash player, the X factor you are, and we'll pay you $10 million a year to do it. But if we end up drafting somebody or we get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or something spectacular happens, that's the ultimate goal. So if they don't do that, I should say, then Taysom will be the starting quarterback. He'll make quarterback money. It's probably a really good contract for Taysom to sign, and it's the ultimate insurance policy. It tells you the Saints are kind of worrying about what's going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years at that position.
You know Sean Payton well, and obviously you played under him, but you know him well. What kind of conversations do you think he had with Taysom leading up to this contract? Because, obviously he's pretty upfront. I like the fact that he told Taysom, a year ago that if Brees goes down, we'll give you the first opportunity, and they did. So what conversations did Payton have? I'm sure he was candid with him in a lot of ways. I'm sure he was
very upfront and honest with him and said, this is our vision. If we draft somebody and they play well, if we get Rodgers or Russell, you're going to continue to do what you're doing. And you know what? Taysom probably didn't like that until he showed him the numbers. Taysom cannot be upset with his contract because nobody else, in my opinion, is going to pay him what the Saints are paying him over the next 4 years, especially if he ends up winning the quarterback job for the New Orleans Saints. He's going to make great money. I think he's making great money as an X factor. So I think it was a win-win. It's smart for Taysom to sign that contract.
It's crazy just looking at this, all the injuries, but the one that intrigues me the most is Jameis Winston because he wasn't setting the world on fire. Had that great game against Green Bay to open the season, but I was so curious to see the maturation of him this year with Sean Payton. They were taking him along slowly. Speaking of Taysom, letting Taysom finish a lot of drives. Man, Shannon, I'd like to have seen where Jameis could have been at this point in the year. Even with all the injuries, I think it would have been interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah, and Jameis would have loved to see it. We all as fans would have loved to see it. The organization would have loved to see it because going forward, this was a make or break year. This was Jameis, you're either going to be our quarterback of the future, or Jameis, it's a 1-year deal and we're moving on. We got to find something else to do. So now there is tons of unknown. You go into free agency, you go into the offseason with a guy who just got hurt that you didn't really see a whole lot of. You saw some good, you saw some bad, but how much did you see of him to give him a 2 or 3 year deal? And I'm sure he's going to go to free agency. I'm sure it's going to be a numbers game. The Saints may bring him back on another 1-year deal, but it's a huge loss for all three parties, the fans, the Jameis Winston, and the organization.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't, we're going to find out the injury update, but what is the mindset, when you're playing in this league, Shanley, and you obviously got to worry about your job and your team, but put yourself on this team right now where they see other teams. We'll get to Buffalo in just a second. Other teams, though, like Buffalo, like Kansas City, heck, like the Bucs, like the Rams, they're losing too. All these teams are losing. As a player, does that affect you just seeing that, what other teams are, they're going through this too at all?
No, I don't know if it really affects you. I think it's just a reminder. If anything, if it's not happening to you, coaches love it because coaches can continue to use it to remind their players that any given week you can be beat in the NFL. Everybody has great talent. If you don't show up, if you're not mentally prepared and physically prepared, you will lose. And we've seen it a number of times. I can't remember a year where we saw so many games upsets the past 2 or 3 weeks in a row. It's been really, really crazy. And part of it may be because it's a long season. Guys are like, we reached the midpoint of the season. We have so many games left. And that mentally can be draining on the teams who maybe burst out the gates and got out to a fast start. And some of the other teams got out to a slow start and now they're hitting their stride. So I think you're at that middle point in the season where teams are finding out who they truly are.
I think if anything typified this season for the Saints is Adam Troutman, who's been very inconsistent, to be kind, going into Philadelphia, was having his career game, and then he gets hurt. He's out for at least a month. It seems this season, really 2 steps forward, 1 step back on both sides of the football, Shanley.
The injuries, everybody, when we think back to the 2021 season, it's going to be the year that was not because of injuries. I'm not writing this team off yet. As long as they get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Everything's going to revolve around the quarterback play. Maybe Taysom emerges and plays some great quarterback, and this team goes on a run. But you get to the point where I know Coach Payton, he doesn't want to blame injuries. I know players, they don't want to blame injuries. But there's a certain point where you get too many injuries, and there's too many injuries to overcome the next man up mentality. You can do it with 1 or 2 key players, but when you start missing your starting quarterback, your starting running back, both starting offensive tackles who are 2 of the best in the league, your starting wide receiver who is an all-pro wide receiver, now you have a tight end who's starting to play good football. You drafted him, started to turn the corner, now he's hurt. And you're missing Andres Pete. The list goes on and on, especially on the offensive side of the ball, of the injuries you've had to overcome. At some point, when you're missing that many quality players, it's hard to overcome, and that's where this team has been the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, anytime you ask Sean Payton a question and the word injuries is in there, you better just be prepared to, I don't know. You don't know where he's coming from. But I asked him after the Philadelphia game, since he's been here, he's never had to deal with this many injuries. How is that affecting things? And he said it was a good question, but you knew he couldn't answer it. But I thought something that was really indicative of Payton, I've never seen him as frustrated after that Tennessee loss because he knew they had a good game plan, and if they didn't make mistakes, they could have won that game. But he said something that he said he'd never get over that loss. Like even a week afterward, I heard him say that in a press conference. These coaches, it's not 3 games a week like Major League Baseball or the NHL or the NBA, man. You prepare for that one game, Shanley, and you make mistakes and you put your heart and soul into it. It's kind of a different animal in the NFL, isn't it, in a lot of ways?
Yeah, because you only have so many opportunities to do it. And you're right; these guys grind. They stay in their office till midnight or 1 o'clock, and they show up at 5 o'clock in the morning. it's all about getting the right game plan together. And sometimes everything you plan for and prepare for throughout the whole week, within the first 3 minutes of a game, it can all be thrown out the window by how the game starts. Say you give up a kickoff return for a touchdown, or you get a block punt for a touchdown, and you're down 14-0. Everything you planned on happening goes out the window. You have to adjust in game, in live action. And that's what really separates good coaches from great coaches. But that Tennessee game, you're right. Everybody thought going into that game, Saints had injuries, but so did the Titans. The Titans just came off a big win over the Rams. No Derrick Henry. You're on the road. A lot of people thought that the Titans were favored to win, which they obviously did. But there were some big calls in that game, official wise. Some plays. Deontay Harris fumbling the ball at the start of the second half. That was obviously a huge play. So I'm sure there's things that he remembers from that game. Every game in the NFL, really, you can take out 3 to 5 plays that would have changed the course of the game in your mind. So I'm sure that's why he isn't able to get over that game.
Well, here's the silver lining, Shanle and Justin. Sean Payton, he's not perfect. Oh, but he is on the holidays. 2-0 on Halloween, 2-0 on Thanksgiving, 1-0 on Christmas, 5-0 Shanle. Could be 6-0 this Thursday. What do you think?
I think the streak ends, Mike. I think it's ending on Thanksgiving. And it's not because it's for multiple reasons. I think Buffalo's a good team. They haven't played well. Heck, we were just talking about Tennessee. Everybody thought Tennessee was the greatest team in the world. They beat the Saints, and they lost to Houston last week, a week after beating the Saints.
Got buried by them.
I mean, it got buried. And then the Colts last week against the Bills, they rushed all over them. I mean, 290 yards rushing or whatever it was in the Bills' house, and the Bills are supposed to have a good defense. So the Bills are coming to New Orleans. I need the Saints to start defending the Dome. And what I mean by that is playing with some energy, playing with some passion, playing with some relentlessness that I have not seen at home. And I know last year was a COVID year, so we didn't get to see the fans, but the fans bring too much energy. You have to take pride in playing in the Dome, and I need to see that out of this team for them to beat the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are a better team. They don't have as many injuries. They have a better quarterback. They have 2 really good receivers. They're young and fast on defense at every position. But I just need this team to play with a different energy at home than what they've been playing with over the past year.
We'll get to your predictions in a second, but do you let the cat out of the bag? I want to hear your score, though, later on, Shanle. We know you're picking the Bills now. But back, Justin, I'll bring you
but am I?
I'll bring you in, Justin, for a second, though. The trend continues. Last week, we all picked the Saints, and you see what happens again.
I'm telling you. One of us has to pick them to lose. And for some reason, we hold this magic power where our unanimous prediction to wins makes them lose.
It is. It's a huge control factor that we have.
I think what it says is we have no idea what this Saints team is.
Exactly.
You know, it's funny. I was talking to the beat writers like Mike Triplett in Philadelphia, and we're not alone, man. I mean, nobody's predicting this team week after week. I mean, not many people picked them to beat the Packers. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule, man. I was so wrong. I thought they beat Carolina. I thought they'd lose to New England. I sure as heck thought they beat the Giants, Washington, whatever. Seattle, if Russell Wilson was playing, that could have been different. I mean, the Bucks, I thought they'd lose that game. Then I thought they'd beat the Falcons. I mean, it's crazy, Shane. I've never seen a year like this, frankly, since Sean Payton's been around.
No, and the X factor is life after Drew Brees. We got so spoiled with Drew. I know the last couple of years he missed some games, but heck, I was thinking of, when you're talking about all these injuries, I was thinking, was there ever a year where we had a bunch of injuries? In 2008, I think we had about 18 guys on injured reserve. We were a much better team in 2008 than our 8-8 record showed. And we felt like that year was really a year that catapulted us into the 2009 Super Bowl season. We were so much better as a team than our record showed. We didn't finish games. We added a few key pieces. But injury-wise, besides 2008, 2010, the year after we won the Super Bowl, we went up to Seattle, played without Jimmy Graham, without Reggie Bush. And just missing those 2 guys, we still had Drew Brees, but we still had a hard time winning games. So I can't imagine what this team is going through, what they have to do mentally to have that hope every single week that guys are going to make plays and win games. What they can rely on is they have one of the best play callers ever to do it. But other than that, it's just defensively, and this is why I've been so hard on our defense. We had a discussion earlier in the year on the podcast. Is this the best defense ever in the Sean Payton era? Some people said yes. Some people said no. Well, if they're even in that conversation, we need them to show up every single week, especially when they're struggling offensively.
It's funny you bring them up. That's why we've been doing this so long. It's almost like the chemistry's unbelievable on this podcast. The defense for the New Orleans Saints, what do you want to see that you didn't see against Philadelphia that you have to see against Buffalo?
Well, against Buffalo's a better offense. Buffalo's a different offense.
Yeah.
I really think this Philadelphia offense, for whatever reason, just gives the Saints defense troubles. And I know what it is. The Saints, they play the same defense we did. A lot of man pressure. When you play man pressure and you get an athletic quarterback who pulls the ball down, they can beat you in different ways like that. And then just defending the college RPO quarterback read stuff. When you only have 2 practices to do that and you don't face that very often because Cam hasn't been around for, a couple of years where he was doing that when he was younger. This was really the first game the Saints faced an athletic quarterback. So they had trouble. But with the Bills, they have a quarterback with a rocket arm who can throw the ball 75 yards. You got to be able to cover the whole time because he also is athletic enough to take off and scramble for first downs. That's going to be critical. That they don't allow Josh Allen to defeat them with his legs. I know he's got a great arm, and you don't want to let him defeat him with his arm either because he has Emmanuel Sanders. He has Diggs on the outside. He's got really good receivers, but they have no running game. They don't have a running back that scares you. Just cover those guys up, put a spy on Allen in the middle, make them run the football. They do not want to run the football. If you make them run the football, I think you give yourself a chance to win.
All right, Shanle, what do you think of Quan Alexander? I think he's played pretty well since he's been back.
Yeah, I think I've always said Quan brings great energy to the team. Is it perfect all the time? Does he jump out of a gap? Does he bust some things every now and then? Yeah, but he's not perfect. But the energy he brings to a defense, just watching him fly around the field, he's got good speed. He does well in coverage, him and DeMario together in nickel. I really like those two together. I would like to see a little bit more Warner on the field because he was a high draft pick, and I think that's how you continue to progress as a linebacker to get those actual game reps. But Quan coming off the Achilles as fast as he did and able to contribute to the Saints this year on defense, I think it's been a tremendous story.
I like to throw Shanle curveballs because sometimes you'll bring up stuff and you don't think it's a big deal, probably because it's been in your mind and you've shared it for years. Like the Aaron Rodgers story last week was great. But I want to kind of ask you something before we get into Buffalo, then we'll get into more likely in our predictions. But, is there a player since you've retired that you would have liked to have played with? Maybe he's on the Saints. Maybe he's in the NFL. I know this is kind of a random thing, but I bring up a guy like Quan Alexander. Is there a player, probably more in particular with the Saints, where you've covered this team since you've retired? And you're like, man, that would be a guy I would have liked to have played with. Is there a guy like that? Maybe.
So you're saying when I was active with the Saints, a guy I've watched over the years?
Yeah, since you've retired, that you've watched since you've left it, man, that would have been a guy I would have liked to have played with. Yeah.
Oh, this is easy for me, hands down. Easy question, Mike. That guy is DeMario Davis for sure.
I figured you'd say that.
Yeah. I mean, we would have figured out a way to get Fajita, myself, Vilma, and DeMario. We would have ran a 4-4 defense or a 3-4. We would have found a way to get it done. Because I wouldn't give up those other 2 guys for anything in the world. Trust me. Those guys I'm gonna ride with. But if I had to give up and we figure out a way to run a 4-4 or 3-4 defense the whole time, I'm going DeMario Davis. I just love the way he plays. I love the energy. I love the person he is. I think he would have been an awesome fit in our room.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, with the Will Smiths of the world and the great locker room you guys had, he would have fit right in, no doubt about it. All right, let's talk about the Bills. I mean, Josh Allen. This just to me, I remember hearing all these things about Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming in the draft. He's got this big arm, but he's not accurate. Once again, a lot of people miss on quarterbacks. And Josh Allen, a lot of people missed on him, Shanle. I mean, he's arguably, you take away Pat Mahomes, maybe Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's up there in terms of top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL.
I was one of them, Mike. I was one of them that missed on him. I just, the guy I wanted the Saints to draft the year they drafted Davenport. I wanted them to take Lamar Jackson. I felt like Sean Payton could have made Lamar Jackson into what he has become in Baltimore. So I always, and that's part of my problem. I was looking at Davenport like, man, you need to stay healthy because I wanted Lamar Jackson there. But Davenport's playing really well. Not to jump off the subject. Yeah,
he is.
Allen is the miss for me because when he was coming out of Wyoming, and I watched some Wyoming games, like, okay, let me watch this big, strong arm kid they keep talking about up there in the mountains where nobody really watches him. And I would watch games, Mike, in college, and I'm like, what are people seeing? Because he never took over games. His stats never said I'm a franchise quarterback in the NFL. Like, you would just think if I'm playing at Wyoming and I'm playing Nevada or Utah State, you should have some 300, 400-yard games with great completion percentages, 5 touchdowns. He never did that in college. And so I think I put too much stock into what I was watching him, not giving into enough consideration what he had playing with him. He also wasn't playing with the guys like Dwayne Haskins played with at Ohio State. So I missed that from that perspective. But he has done a great job growth-wise in Buffalo, but I give a lot of credit to Sean McDermott, their head coach. I think they have a functional organization because of Sean McDermott, their head coach.
That's a great point, because I was thinking, Josh Allen, what a breath of fresh air that is in Buffalo. They're like Cleveland. They're like Cleveland East. All the quarterbacks they've had the last 15 years. But you're right. I mean, the difference is not only Josh Allen has talent, but he was raw. I mean, a lot of people missed on him because he was so raw. So, yeah, McDermott needs to get a lot of credit there. I just, I'll look at this Bills team, and, a lot of people had them preseason to win the AFC. But again, they get bit by the parity bug. I mean, they lost. How did they lose to the Jaguars a couple weeks ago? That's insane to me. It really is.
It's absolutely insane. I really don't know. I still haven't watched that game, just basically because I don't really care about Buffalo and Jacksonville. But I don't know. It's amazing.
Wasn't it like 9-6 or something like that? Who would want to watch that game?
Yeah. It was 9-6, and part of it, I think, what happened is I'm gonna blame Drew Brees. Drew Brees crowned them after they beat Kansas City, and everybody had Buffalo after they beat Kansas City as the number one team in the NFL. This team's going to the Super Bowl. Everybody forgot, okay, so that was a hurdle for them, but there's a lot of season left. And Buffalo, I think, started to believe that was the Super Bowl. Like, their season was over. They had accomplished everything just because they had beaten a malfunctioning Kansas City Chiefs team early in the year. They haven't played as good a football since that point. It's a lot of season left, though. You go through these ebbs and flows of a football season. There are highs, there are lows. It's what you do to get out of the lows that defines you come playoff time.
All right, before we get to more likely, how is it on a short week? To me, I just hate Thanksgiving games are one thing. I love Thanksgiving games. Thursday night games are always generally just bad football that we're watching. As a player, how much do you guys disdain Thursday games? I'm sure you don't like those at all.
Awful, brutal, awful.
Yeah.
People are like, "Oh, you get to play on Thanksgiving?" Heck no, I'd rather be sitting at home watching somebody play football and having an actual Thanksgiving. Thursday games. My first Thursday game ever, Mike, before they started doing the normal Thursdays, was when I was in Dallas. We played the Bears on Thanksgiving. That was my first taste of a Sunday game to a Thursday game, and I'll never forget it. I was like, "This is like abuse." My body is still hurt. I can feel everything I felt from Sunday, and I'm out here expected to play another game on Thursday. So that was my first taste of it, and I'll never forget it. It's not fun.
Well, wasn't it part of you? You were a young player back then. Like, man, everybody in the world's watching me, though. Everybody's watching me right now play. Does that get the juices flowing a little more, or hell no? I'm just
maybe if everything didn't hurt so damn bad,
right.
Maybe I would have thought about putting on a show for everybody. But the body was so sore that I thought, I hope we never play another Thanksgiving game. And then I remembered, as long as I'll play for the Cowboys, I'll have to play a Thanksgiving game. But thankfully, I got traded out of there.
Wow, interesting perspective. Oh, my goodness. Well, Justin, we miss you. We got to bring you back in. You know what time it is. DraftKings more likely. 3 hypothetical questions. We bring back producer Justin Thomas and, of course, Scott Shanle, and they are at a supreme disadvantage because they don't know what I'm going to ask, and I already know because I came up with the question. Sometimes I do it during the show. Sometimes you guys bring up something, and I'll have to create another question because I don't want to be repetitive. But this is kind of an open-ended question. Shanle brought it up. Drew Brees is at NBC. He's a hotshot broadcaster. He used to work with me, but now it's a much higher profile Mike Tirico. But let's just say Brees, I assume Brees keeps in shape. I bet Brees still works out during the week, and I bet he has his own little plan. If Brees just stepped off the bus and entered the huddle this weekend, what would you expect from Drew Brees, Justin Thomas? I still think it'd be an upgrade, obviously, for Trevor Siemian, but how good would Drew Brees be without training camp, without any reps this week, just stepping off the bus, throw him in there Thursday, Thanksgiving against the Buffalo Bills?
There's no doubt in my mind mentally he would still be sharp. I think it would be like he played last week. I think obviously the age was already catching up to him as we saw the last couple of years. And I think if he were to just show up, he would be rusty. I'll say this though, if he was playing, I would definitely have more faith in the team winning than I do right now.
More likely, Shanle, how good would Brees play if he just jumped off the bus this week and played? No practice, no training camp, no season so far.
Well, on a short week, I think it'd be tough actually because body-wise, you're not ready for it. But if you gave Drew Brees a normal full week to practice and get ready, so that's 3 full days of practice and then a walkthrough. I think Drew would go out there and have a 70% completion percentage, throw for 250 yards, be 25 of 30. It'd be something very efficient like we saw the last couple of years, and without a doubt would be the best option at quarterback.
I'm laughing because I agree with you. And one thing I always heard from Brees is, the injuries that he had the last couple of years is that, some guys, they don't need the reps as much as other guys, right? But Brees, you could tell that was important to him to get those reps during practice every week. So I agree with you. I could see those numbers, and I could see him loving the challenge. And as the game would progress, he would just get better. But he's got to be watching from afar saying, boy, those receivers are bad, Shanle. Those receivers are not
good. Nobody will ever know but Drew Brees if that was a factor in not coming back.
Right. I mean, he's got to be thinking this week, calling the game. All right, so maybe no Kamara. Marquez Callaway's your leading guy. I guess Deontay's they go back and forth, and they're not even the top 100 in terms of catches. And your tight ends like Garrett Griffin, maybe this week.
Yeah, and by the way, Mark Ingram showed up on the injury report today. Didn't practice with a knee injury, so
it's crazy.
It is. I don't know. They're down to a lot of guys these guys who maybe wouldn't have gotten an opportunity to play before are getting an opportunity to either extend their careers from 1 or 2 year guys to maybe playing 4, 5, 6 years, just based on if they take advantage of these opportunities they're getting right now.
Right. All right, we mentioned Josh Allen, and we just talked about Brees. Speaking of quarterbacks, second more likely question, and you guys can go off the board because generally when you go off the board, it's better than stuff I come up with. But looking at quarterbacks under 25, if you could pick one, and obviously the Saints can't have any of these guys, but if you could pick one of these guys to be the Saints quarterback next year, okay, just based on what you've seen so far, I'm going to throw out 4 names, okay? I think Josh Allen's under 25, or he's right at it. He's got to be right at it. Okay, but I'm going to give you Josh Allen. I'm going to give you can't have Mahomes, okay? You can't have Lamar. Okay? You can't.
What?
I'm going to make it tougher, okay? Taking those 2 guys off because I know you're going to jump in with your off the board with those guys, okay? I'm going to give you 4. I'm going to give you Josh Allen. I'm going to give you Joe Burrow. I'm going to give you Mac Jones, or I'm going to give you Trevor Lawrence. Or you could go off the board. But you can't go Mahomes or Lamar.
And I'm going first, right?
Yes.
I was going to go with Mac Jones until you mentioned Joe Burrow. I totally forgot about him. I don't even know how. But I would love to see him play under Sean Payton. I think he's really talented. He's very smart. Plus, he's got the connection with LSU. All of those are really good names. You can't go wrong. I'm sure Scott will have a better reason why someone else is better, but I like Joe Burrow. I'm going to go with him.
Joe Burrow. Scott Shanle, who's the next Saints quarterback if you could have your own fantasy draft here with guys under 25.
And did you had Josh Allen in there?
Yes. Yeah.
Josh Allen was in there?
Yep.
Gosh. Trevor Lawrence is a really good player. He's hidden
it's
in Jackson.
Hard.
That's what you call a good problem right there.
Yeah, these are all part of me wants to go with Josh Allen because he's a big, strong-arm quarterback, and I want to see that vertical game get back introduced into the Saints offense. But because what the Saints have at receiver and tight end, I don't know if they have that vertical old Al Davis Raiders speed down the field offense. I think Joe Burrow is the best fit. I think Joe Burrow is a guy who's a 65%, 70% completion every game, throws the ball in rhythm, throws the ball on timing, and I've seen him play in the Saints offense. We all have. We saw him play at LSU under Joe Brady. We saw him play in the Saints offense, and look what he did in it. So I think I would go with Joe Burrow.
You know what is funny about this whole thing is that I used to work in Jacksonville, and Mac Jones is from Jacksonville, and he was not a highly sought after recruit, even though he went to Alabama. They're like, why are you going to Alabama? You'll never play there, whatever. But now the talk in Jacksonville I'm hearing a little bit is he better than Trevor Lawrence?
Oh,
is he? Could he be better? I think Mac Jones is not better. I think he's perfect for what New England is. He is a guy who's smart. He's adapting, and he's, they're giving him a little bit more every week. It's almost like Jameis with the Saints in some ways. They kind of open up the playbook for him. But yeah, if I'm taking any of those, it's almost easy for me. I like Joe Burrow a lot. I think Joe Burrow with Sean Payton. My goodness, how much would Sean Payton love that? I mean, I think he's a winner. The thing I always like about Joe Burrow, and I love bringing this story time up with Shanle, is you've known Joe Burrow forever because you played with his brother at Nebraska. But the thing I love about Joe Burrow, and I don't know these other guys as well, but they kind of have all these characteristics, but it seems like Burrow has it a little more. He's just cool, Shanle. He doesn't get rattled, and he never gets real down, but even when he's winning national titles, even when he's winning games, he doesn't get real up either. I mean, you've known him forever. Has he always kind of been that kind of kid?
Yeah. I mean, he's always been even keel. And the one thing about Joe, and people heard this story about when he went to LSU to play, he had to do something to earn everyone's respect. And that was beating people in the conditioning tests, doing things like that so that he could get instant respect. Like, man, this guy's one of us. This guy wants to win just like us. And I think that's what makes Joe Burrow. He went to Cincinnati, and, perennial loser, and he gave them hope. He gave them belief. And a lot of it is because of his personality. Joe is not aloof. He doesn't act like he's better than you. He wasn't raised that way. He is the ultimate competitor, and he wants to win. He has a lot of the same attributes you see Tom Brady and Drew Brees. There's no question when you play with those guys that their main goal is to win, and that's how can you not respect that and want to play hard for a guy like that?
It's a tough question, but Joe Burrow wins unanimously. Joe Burrow, if you're listening, you gotta love that. He's not listening, but yeah, it's a good thought. All right, the last question. Let's keep it festive. It's Thanksgiving, and Shanle likes turkey. Justin likes turkey more than I do, and I'm a ham guy, so I'm not going to throw that out there. But I'm going to ask, who's the biggest turkey in the NFL right now? And you can definitely go off the board with this, but I'm going to give you three. I'm going to give you Antonio Brown. I don't know if he bought the vaccination cards and did all that yet.
I was just going to say.
But he's Antonio Brown, man. I mean, I live in Tampa, and they're like, well, maybe that Antonio Brown thing wasn't I know he played good last year. I don't want that guy on my team. I don't want him in my locker room. You got Odell Beckham. We've talked about he'd probably be good with the Saints, but he's Odell Beckham, man. He's always something. He's a diva. And then just for the hell of it, we threw Goodell in there. Just throw Roger Goodell because he's Roger Goodell. You could go off the board. We're keeping it NFL. Biggest turkey in the NFL, Justin Thomas.
Ooh, I think Saints fans would go after Goodell instantly. Could we throw the refs in too? The refs have been really bad this year.
One. That's a good off the board. I like that. Yeah.
I don't
Turkeys.
know what. Yes, turkeys plural.
Yes.
The refs have been really bad this year. Very inconsistent. We've talked about it a lot in this podcast. And then with sports betting, coming soon. DraftKings. I just, they got to figure it out. I'm going to go with the refs because I like that. I've been rooting for them to get better all year.
That's a pretty good one. Shanle, who's your biggest turkey in the NFL?
Yeah, I was actually going to say NFL officiating, so there's no need to double up on that. I think we can all agree the officiating is not getting better, but it needs to get better. I'm going to go with – so I'm sitting here, I'm trying to decide, when I watch TV, who bothers me the most? And it's a toss-up between Travis Kelce and Baker Mayfield.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Wow.
I can't stand Travis Kelce.
Why do people – let me ask you this, seriously.
That's interesting.
Why
I think he's a fake tough guy. I think he's a fake tight end. I think we used to call fake tight ends queens. That's what Greg Williams used to call him. That's what I call him because he doesn't get in line to block. He doesn't get his face bloodied. He's a slower wide receiver that Andy Reid knows how to get it in space.
Was Jimmy Graham a fake tight end?
Come
on.
I feel like Jimmy actually blocked more than Kelce. I've never seen Kelce just get after a DN, really.
Let me go into the mind of Shanle, Justin. He's like, well, he's a former teammate. I really like him, and my kids have his jerseys. Yeah.
Well, personality-wise, I like Jimmy's personality more too than Kelce. I'm gonna go Baker Mayfield. I can't stand Baker Mayfield.
Why do people not like him?
I think it's so funny. I don't get it.
It's the whole. I watched him in college. I respect him. He's a walk-on. He's earned everything. But when you watch him in interviews, he still has not matured to the point of being a CEO franchise quarterback. By the way he responds to questions, the pouting, somebody just asked him the other day a question. He got all snarky about it. And I don't remember what it was, but it's just, I can't stand the dude has done nothing in the NFL. He's won 8 games. They were 500 last year, but yet I have to watch a new Progressive commercial every single week. Like
I agree with that. I will agree.
It's not his fault that Progressive gives him the deals. Congratulations, more power to him. He shouldn't turn it down. I just think he's so overhyped. He's still got some brattiness, babiness to him, and I don't think he's a quarterback who Cleveland should probably give a franchise money to.
Yeah, I tell you who's a queen tight end, by the way, is Kyle Pitts in Atlanta.
He's a wide receiver.
Wow. He's a freaking he's like a slot guy almost. I mean, it's just yeah. Anyway,
what's going to be interesting with that, Mike, and we'll talk about this. Hopefully, DraftKings sponsors us in a couple of years when his deal comes up, because Atlanta's going to say, guess what, buddy? We drafted you as a tight end. We're going to pay you tight end money. He's going to say, wait. I want wide receiver money. We went through that in New Orleans with Jimmy Graham.
You did. Absolutely you did. I just am not an Antonio Brown fan at all. That's my biggest turkey. He was the first guy I wanted to put on there because I want guys to get better. I'm all about second chances. That guy's been given like 8 chances. He ruined like 3 coaches and 3 teams in 1 year. And I'm surprised that he was on his best behavior with Tampa and played well for them, man, especially down the stretch last year. But I just think, eventually at his core, he's just not a good guy. I just don't like what he's about. But here's the thing, Shanle, he's a Hall of Famer, isn't he?
Oh, his numbers probably would say he's a Hall of Famer. I just don't know. Yeah, listen, if people are going to hold T.O. out multiple times for what he did.
Which was wrong, by the way.
Yeah. Which is wrong, because T.O. is a heck of a player.
Yeah.
You have to hold it against Antonio Brown, the stuff he's been doing. Because this guy, I don't know how much money he's made. Why does he not pay anybody back? Pay your chef, dude. Just pay your chef.
Right.
Pay the people who are doing work on your house. Like, he constantly is not paying people back. And he gets in trouble by just not, like you said, he's not a good guy. He doesn't uphold his end of deals, and it gets into a lot of trouble.
But allegedly, one guy he does pay is who's ever making the vaccination cards in Tampa.
I know. I couldn't believe that story. They've disputed it. So I have a hard time believing that the NFL would be duped by a fake vaccination card. I think it was probably more that the chef was trying to get back at him.
Yeah, he seemed a bitter chef guy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, I did remember the Baker Mayfield thing that ticked me off today when I saw it. They asked him, "Did you hear the fans booing?" And he's like, "No, I didn't hear them booing, but it's probably the same morons or the same fans who make noise when we're on offense."
Oh,
could you have ever imagined, like, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady? Could you ever imagine them giving that response?
No.
He just has not matured.
Aaron Rodgers, maybe, yes. Rodgers. Yeah, I could see Aaron Rodgers saying something like that.
I could, yeah.
Yeah. I know he's your guy, Shanle.
In a snarky way.
Yeah. He'd be like, he'd say it a better delivery.
With a sly smile.
Yeah.
Exactly, right.
Like, Aaron Rodgers is one of those guys that, but if you hung out with him, he would be funny as hell. Like, he'd be great away from all of it, but boy, he would be dry, and he would just look at you and give you deadpan stuff all day. I could just see that from him, And there's nothing wrong. I'm not criticizing him. We all have friends like that. It's fine. But anyway, all right, let's go into predictions here. That's a backhanded compliment if there ever was one.
That was a great what's more likely. We got off tangent a lot in that one,
and that was off the cuff too, man. That's
That's good.
All right, Justin, Saints Bills, baby. I know what Shanley's going to say. I don't know what the score is, but what's your score? And by the way, with you being wrong and all of us wrong, you're officially 2-6. Shanley's 3-5, and yours truly is 2-6. Yes,
that is horrible.
It is.
That is horrible
for a 5-5 football team. I know we missed a couple of weeks, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you were saying we all know what Scott's going to pick. I think everyone knows what all of us are probably going to pick. I just, last week was my last week of hope that I had, and after that game, whatever little hope I had was taken away.
Oh,
so.
Hope is gone.
It's totally
gone. The podcast turns dark.
Hope is gone. Oh my God.
I mean, I just don't. I don't know what the only thing is. Maybe the saving grace is that all the teams that have been really good this year that we've played, we've beaten. But the thing is, the Bills aren't that great. They've lost 3 of their last 5. Their record is 1 game better than us. I don't know. I don't see it. I think we have a lot of issues on, injuries mainly being the big factor. I just don't have hope. And until they can pull off another great win, I don't know. I'm going to be doom and gloom on the podcast, I guess. So.
I've never heard you this down before, man. Ever.
I know it's really sucks. So, you want to score, right?
Yes.
I'm going to say 34 to, let's go with 22.
Oh my God, defense. Rough day for the Saints defense in the Superdome on Thanksgiving. Shanle, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of broke it down earlier. I think the Bills are the better team. They have absolutely no running game, which I don't know if that's good or bad because the Saints haven't exactly stopped people from throwing the ball. Last time Matt Ryan threw the ball all over in the Superdome. But the fact that the Buffalo Bills have to travel, that's not easy on a short week. I'm gonna give Saints 7 points for the home field advantage. Right now, I think Buffalo is 5.5-point favorites. I'm gonna go Buffalo, but they are not going to cover that spread. I'm going to go Buffalo 27, Saints 24.
Oh, wow. All right.
Field goal.
Wow. Okay, well, the Saints are going to win this game because not only am I picking them to win, but we're all not going to pick the Bills to win. And so there's a constant there. I love the fact that I can do weird scores now because we miss extra points every week. So I'm gonna go odd score. I love on Twitter that scoreagami. Have you ever seen that?
Yes, I love scoreagami. Yep.
Scoreagami. Have you seen that, Shanle?
I have not.
Scoreagami follows every game, and to see if you're going to get a different, they'll track games like, okay, last week's score. Oh, that score's happened like 30 times in NFL history. But once in a while, you get a score that's never happened before.
Never happened, yeah.
And they keep track of it. But it's cool following them on Twitter because they'll track every game. I don't know who's behind the keyboard there, but they're busy. That's for sure. So I'm going to go 19-14. They missed an extra point. I think the Saints defense really plays well in this game. I think they get a turnover. I worry about, obviously, Armstead's back. I think that'll be good for the offense. I think Taysom's going to play better. I think the Saints win this game. I think they get the Superdome mojo back again. It's not going to be a pretty game. It's going to be an ugly Thanksgiving primetime game with Brees calling it back in the house. You got the Brees mojo. You got Taysom back. You got Armstead. Maybe we make all the extra points. I'm believing in the Saints. So we can play this next week when we begin our DraftKings podcast. How about that, Justin?
Scott, you know what's going to happen, right? You and I are going to be the ones sleeping after the tryptophan from the turkey, and Mike on his ham diet.
Yeah,
the one cheering them on.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So there you have it. All right, we really appreciate that. We talked about DraftKings, but we appreciate them very much being our title sponsor. DraftKings Sportsbook is coming soon to Louisiana. It won't be long until you can bet on all your favorite sports teams from the comfort of your own home. To celebrate, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving customers $100 in free bets when you sign up before they go live. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use our code DONEDATPODCAST when you sign up. Those who sign up right now, as I mentioned, will get $100 in free bets to use once mobile sports betting hits Louisiana. That's code DONEDATPODCAST to get $100 in free bets instantly. Now, only a DraftKings Sportsbook. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-877-770-STOP. That's 7867, 1-877-770-STOP. 21 and over, Louisiana only. Availability varies by parish. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for full terms and conditions. So we appreciate DraftKings. Where are we on Twitter, Justin?
At Dundat Podcast.
And we're on all the platforms. Please subscribe. Please rate us. Happy Thanksgiving, Who Dat Nation. Hope you enjoy your holiday, and I hope you enjoy the game despite the predictions from my partners. I still believe in the black and gold. I'm not a downer like Justin Thomas. I still believe it's Taysom time, baby. It's going to be a great Thanksgiving. It's a very merry Taysom Thanksgiving. Until next time, for Justin Thomas and Scott Shanle, I'm merely Mike Nabors. We'll talk to you soon.